Hello. Welcome back to Owl003. Um, Today we're going to talk about some very interesting things I find interesting. So, I think I'm going to enjoy this. First of all, I want to ask you, if you're watching this, why are you here? Why are you here? I'm not saying why are you watching this. Why are you remote viewing? What brought you upon this phenomena, this very interesting thing we call remote viewing? How did you find yourself here? Were you looking for self-exploration? Are you wanting to expand your own awareness? Are you wanting to use this tool to help people? Help make the world a better place? Those are good reasons. Those are all really good reasons. But it may not be all the reasons, that you found yourself here. It could be a combination of those things. It could be some of these things. A certificate. Could be to make money. Could be for credit or clout. Or it could be to indulge your own ego. Regardless of the reasons why you found yourself here, your overall limitations, whether you like it or not, are going to be dependent on these things. If any of these are your primary, even deep down in your heart, are your primary objectives in this, you're going to have success, but you're going to have a limited success. Okay, that's my opinion. Now, today I want to talk to you. I think it's important I want to help you guys understand the difference between the reality of what this is, the frauds, the real deals, and how to make this distinction. Okay. So let's start here. Okay. Now, so you guys know, I'm I'm a retired construction worker. I came from Chicago. So my upbringing, I've always given everything I could with whatever effort I was going towards, whether it be work, my career, whatever. I give it 110%, just the way I'm built. But also, I'm just of the upbringing where I see things as they are. I mean, if you come up to me and say the sky is purple, I'm going to laugh at you. That's who I am, okay? I'm not going to apologize for that. And I'm also not motivated by money. Okay, people that come to me for work, they come to me. I don't need to advertise. Students that come to me, I don't pull them in. They feel drawn to me. So luckily I made enough money in my career where I don't have to whore myself out and shove shit down your throat in order to kind of paint one picture or the other. It makes no difference to me. I get nothing out of it either way. But here's what I want to, we'll start here, okay? Now, if you see one of these people, these instructors, these people that are claiming they're selling stuff or whatever, that they don't have an ego, that's a fraud. And it's very likely that they have the biggest ego or one of the bigger egos because they fooled themselves into thinking they don't have one. You can quell your ego, you can diminish it, you can control it to a degree, you can hone it, but you will never be rid of an ego. It's part of the human condition. And some of the people in the field have ego problems, which takes it to a whole nother level. But you cannot be rid of the ego, okay? But it does help to be cognizant of it in all of this to help keep you grounded. And it'll help you manage it. It's something I wrestle with every day. Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about monitoring later, but if you are a instructor or claim to be an operational remote viewer, okay, but everything you do publicly, or most of the things you do publicly, if you have to pack your spouse in a suitcase for every operation so they can lob you softballs, that's a fraud. Although I do use monitoring from time to time, and it does work, and we'll get into that and the mechanics of all that in a minute. But if you cannot just investigate on your own on a regular basis, and you need to take somebody with you to do these things to kind of like and use them as crutches, you're a fraud. You should be able to do this by yourself. You could use monitoring, but you shouldn't be leaning on it, okay? And as a matter of fact, you should want to do these on your own. You want to be your own explorer. You know what I mean? You don't need to lean on anybody to move you around the target, okay? But it does help depending on some operations. It's not that doesn't work, it's not useful, or there's problems, but you should have that ability. You shouldn't be leaning on that, okay? If you're spending most of your time promoting yourself or commercials for your classes, posting haikus, if that's like the better part of your time as far as your instruction and stuff, and you're not remote viewing, and you're, that's a fraud in my eyes as well. And if you claim you're just trying to get as many students to kind of expand the planet and all that, I see that as bullshit. I see it as maximizing your profit margin, and that's exactly what you're doing. If you are selling snake oil, okay, if you are healing or teaching healing with no discernible evidence of repair or even a cause of the needing of the healing to begin with, you're a fraud, in my mind. Now, I'm not saying that some of this stuff doesn't make someone feel good on some level, but if you can't show me anything real, like in you're charging for it in mass quantities, you know, in big numbers, I would consider you a fraud, personally. You know, if you're teaching a class and charging people money on how to channel aliens in the field of remote viewing, especially, you are a fraud. Okay. I hope I'm spelling that right. Is there an E on that? I don't know. Let's see. I'm such a terrible speller. Okay, that's right. All right. Now, if your best sessions are 30 years in your past or decades behind you, and you're still talking about them and like riding a circuit and talking about this, you're a fraud. I'm just trying to show you guys how I would tell the difference. You guys do what you want. If you have written a book within the field of remote viewing and it offers no more than a love letter to your guru, you're a fraud. Okay. And if you're writing books on this topic of anything in remote viewing and you're practicing, like as far as other than like an academic perspective, you should be open to show those sessions or you're a fraud. Let's see what else. If you cannot present 10 successful remote viewing sessions to a student that wishes your instruction, you are a fraud. And to be honest with you, anything that's not covered on an NDA, I'd be happy to open my catalog to any students that come to me, okay? Because I have nothing to hide. Okay, if you claim to be selling the best product in town without any clear indication of what best actually means, you are, guess what? A fraud. Okay. If you create a video on ideograms with a conversation with true talent and your real guru, just to serve the purpose of damaging a previous colleague, their name and reputation, and you have your students disseminate that video because you're too much of a pussy to do it yourself, guess what? You are a fraud. F-R-A-U-D. Those are fraudulent qualities. If you claim you are currently using the most superior methodology currently available today without any discernible evidence of this claim, that's a fraud. It's kind of like what I said before, but that's okay. If you go out of your way to instill your bitterness or sour grapes from decades ago of other players in this field into your students like poison, not only are you a fraud, but you're a danger to this community and these people. Fraud. If you are still writing books about the history of procedures and or personalities within the field that happened over a decade ago, likely even more than a decade, likely multiple decades, you are a fraud. If you are sending your students in to fight your battles, post messages, sling rocks, or do your backbiting for you, guess what? You're a fraud. If there is no limit to your classroom sizes and your true intention is to maximize your profit at every turn instead of respecting what this is all about and serving the student well, you are a fraud. Okay. If you carry a helmet around with you in interviews with a dent in it in order to better explain your backstory in interviews as a remote viewing guru, you're a fraud. Okay. Okay. So we've got the fraudulent behavior. Talked about that. Let's try and get a positive spin going here now. Now let's talk about the real deals. Now, there are groups that remote view. There are people that that remote view often that I don't like. Some of them I can't stand, and I know they can't stand me, and that's okay though. Because even though I don't like them and I think they're egotistical or whatever the case, I do respect them. I do respect them. So you guys out there that I do respect you, okay? Because you're doing what you say you do. All right, you're openly remote viewing. You're showing your work, regardless of your intentions or whatever. You are who you say you are. So I give you that credit, okay? So real deals should be operationally or otherwise are open to share their work, okay? If they can, unless it's protected under some kind of clause, right? Real deal promotes community and learning from each other. That's another real deal. Real deals are open to innovation and exploration. Real deal. Real deals practice exactly what they preach. And also what I mean by that, when I put out videos, okay, about what's better, and all these gurus see that video and run clamoring and completely do a 180 on the sermon they've been preaching for the last several decades, those are frauds, okay, in panic mode. because I'm here to turn this shit upside down. So they know it, and it's scary. Okay. Real deals don't need to cram their commercials down your throat or send their students in the battle for them. They let their work do their talking. Okay? It's a real deal. Okay. So now I want to talk about some misinterpretations of the field. Okay? Now, I mentioned before about monitoring. Okay? Now, here's what I've witnessed from many sessions, both solo and otherwise, okay? Now, you have a person here, sitting at a desk, doing their work. Say the remote viewer, right? Viewer. And you have the monitor. And I'm going to throw Lynn a bone here on this when he talks about, he talks about distance. Now, biggest concern, what happens often is a monitored session will take place, okay, and the data will be very good. And then the data gets really good. And then all these haters come in and say, oh, it's telepathic overlay. Telepathic overlay. Okay. First of all, let's get this straight. What is the distance of a mind-to-mind connection? I mean, can I read somebody's mind if they're standing in front of me just as easily as I could if they're 2 states away? Absolutely. Absolutely. There is no distance issue at all, okay? Now, their biggest complaint is that this viewer is getting some kind of social cue or is being directed in some way, and they have contaminated the data, okay? So it's kind of like the idea behind it. Now, first of all, if a viewer is worth their salt, they're balls deep in this session. They're not paying attention to what the monitor's doing or saying, or, unless he's prompting them to go somewhere, okay? So they're certainly not watching this person's facial cues, okay? Now, the monitor's purpose really, what they do, if they do anything at all, they may say, go up this, describe, move to this position. There's no leading, okay? It's just basically moving the camera around the target, okay? That way the viewer can be just fully engaged, and that's it. Now, can this person lead this person down some kind of rabbit hole? Abso-fucking-lutely. If you're an idiot and you're bad at this, that can happen. No doubt. I'm not denying that, okay? But if this person is trained and they're good at this, it's not a concern at all. At all, okay? That's why, cowboy sessions work so well and all this and that. Because it allows the viewer to just go in and just be completely engaged. And if they do want to ask questions or whatever, and they're doing it right, they're not being led. Now, I'm going to call Courtney out on this because Courtney has publicly stated this, okay? So watch what you say, guys, publicly, because if you're talking bullshit, I'm going to call you out on it. So Courtney states he does something different. It's not called monitoring. He calls it something else, right? Because monitoring leads people and this and that. Okay. First of all, let me tell you something about Courtney's education in remote viewing. Courtney was taught by Ed Dames. And I'm going to be honest. I don't know if Ed taught him CRV or if he just taught him TRV. But what I will tell you, and what everybody in that unit will tell you, is that Ed was the worst goddamn monitor in the whole fucking unit. And you know why? Other than leading the viewers, I've had instructors tell me they look up when he's monitoring them, and Ed's doing a session on the same target at the same time. So he was terrible. He was awful at this. Skip, very good at this. Okay. Other viewers, very good at this. Okay. Paul's good at this. Lynn's good at this. You can be good at this. And the being good part is shutting up and not leading the viewer. Okay. And it's highly effective. Highly effective. So if you're going to sit here and promote, say that all monitors are telepathic overlay, you don't know what you're talking about. Excuse me. And no offense to Ed. Ed went off and did his TRV thing, and people love it. It's great. But he wasn't a good monitor. If you ask anybody in the unit, we'll probably tell you the same thing. But I've heard plenty of stories. Okay, so in that sense, Courtney's talking out of his ass. So, sorry, Courtney. Okay. Now I want to talk about something else, okay? And that is gifts. Okay. You might have heard of like something. It's a little bit outside of the field, okay? But I feel it's important to mention. Okay. So it's Kundalini, an ascension, whatever. Okay. So what is that all about, right? So there's people that do a lot of meditation and they have this, Well, let me tell you, that's not the only way. Okay. If you remote view enough and your passion is truly to expand your awareness, to become more than what you are, and you have genuine like love for it, and your intentions are true, things happen. Gifts, okay? It could be a drop-in of some kind of random psychic phenomena you weren't drawing on before. It could be like a level of telepathy within a group of friends. It could just be a keener insight on everything. You could activate these lucid dreams. I mean, it could be a myriad of things. But trust me when I say it's legit. It does exist, and it does happen. But those frauds, they don't have those gifts, and they never will. And if you come into this field with those kinds of intentions, you'll never have them either. They're not for you. When your heart and your mind is one, okay, in the same place, and when your intentions are true, there's no fear, there's peace. The last thing one fears at that point is for somebody to remote view me, or them, or whatever. Because I am well aware of what my intentions are. I'm well aware of what I'm trying to accomplish, and they all come from a genuine place. All right. So it's also very likely that myself has been remote viewed by multiple remote viewers across the field, and I think it's very likely they perceive the same thing I have. Okay, and that's why they're all treading lightly these days. So unfortunately, money is what makes the world go wrong, guys, and remote viewing is no other exception. And these people that have jumped into instructions, that are pounding this shit down your throat, they never truly mastered this. Okay? They never truly mastered it. And as soon as they started jumping into selling you shit, they stopped growing right then and there. Because their intentions changed. They're somewhere else now. Okay? And that's not how this works. So my best advice is to you is your intention, your intuition is here to help you. It's here to help guide you. So listen to it. And if you do listen to it, and if your intentions are true, you'll go really far here in this field, regardless of the tools you use to do it. So what I would recommend to you is do not get wrapped up in the most expensive program. At the end of the day, like I've said before, it comes down to you. This is a piece of paper. No matter what I write on that piece of paper, it does not define me. It doesn't define you. What's real, what you do, what you give back. Where's your heart at? we need to do better. We need to do better than they did. So one thing I say is, be smarter than I. Don't fall into the pitfalls that I did. Because they're there, if your intentions are true, and you really want, you're here to expand, whatever happens down the road, whatever mistakes you make, it'll work itself out. Because you've came down this path and you want a positive outcome at the end. And your intuition will get you there. But there is a lot of frauds here in this field. Tons. More than half. So what I would ask you to do is use discernment. And just consider some of these things that I mentioned. I'm not anyone's guru, and I don't want to be. That's not what I do. Okay, I train students to go on to beyond me. That's, if you're not doing that, if you're trying to fit a student into your mold, you are in the wrong business for this. I think that's all I have to say. We'll catch you next time, guys.